Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. Today I want to talk about how to introduce the different characters in your screenplay. And I want to talk about this using Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark and how it introduces the different characters in its story. Let's begin. So when you want to introduce a character, you want to introduce that character at their most characterized. Now, what does that mean? What that means is we want to see who the character is as we meet them for the first time. So how do you do this? How do we actually meet our characters at their most characterized? We do this by character action. We do this by showing what they are doing as we meet them, and that tells us about who they are. Let's go to Indiana Jones for examples. In the beginning of Indiana Jones, we meet our protagonist, Indiana Jones. What is he doing when we meet him? He is on another adventure to find a lost artifact, right? This is what he does. This is who he is. So as we go through the initial 10-minute sequence of Indiana Jones going and finding the temple, going inside, going through the traps in the temple, finally getting the idol, the temple begins to collapse around him. His friend betrays him, but he ends up handling that issue and gets out of the temple. This is showing Indiana Jones in action. It is showing our character at our most characterized, right? This tells us who he is. It shows us that our protagonist is this adventurer who goes out to find lost artifacts and bring them back. That is what he does. And so through this initial sequence, we see his bravery, we see the fact that he's not scared of the spiders, that he's not scared of some of the traps, that he is able to handle himself when things go poorly, when he is betrayed by his companion. This is everything that we learn about Indiana Jones by it being shown to us, right? Now, we could meet Indiana Jones while he is at his college campus, and we could meet him and another character could tell us about how he is also an adventurer who goes out and finds these artifacts. But obviously, it's way more fun to actually meet the character when they're doing the thing that they do best, right? We want to see them at their most characterized. Now, as we continue in the story, who is the next character that we meet? Belloc. And who is Belloc? Again, we meet Belloc at his most characterized. We meet him as he steals from Indiana Jones and as he sends the tribe to kill him. So now we have an immediate understanding of who Belloc is. He is similar to Indiana Jones in the sense that he wants to find these artifacts, but he is willing to manipulate and steal to get what he wants. Again, we are meeting our character in their most characterized. We are meeting our character as they are performing an action, as they are taking action, and therefore the audience is able to see who they are, rather, again, than Indiana Jones telling us that Belloc is a thief or Belloc is a manipulator. We can see this happen, and that gives us a much better understanding of the character. Now, as we continue in the first act of Indiana Jones, the Raiders of the Lost Ark, we go and we meet Marion. And what is Marion doing when we meet her? She is in a drinking game, competing against this other large man who seemingly is about to beat her in this game. However, she ends up winning the drinking game, sends everybody home, and we understand this is what she's doing and this is where she is at. She is still in this dive bar, and she even complains a little bit later on that she's been stuck in this dive bar for too long. And we can see this because of the action she is taking in the drinking game. Because she is winning this drinking game, we can see this is what she has been doing and this is who she is. This is her place, and it's been her place for a while, and she's gotten good at this. And soon after this, we meet the German interrogator, Major Todd. And how do we meet this German interrogator? Well, doing an interrogation, right? Again, we are meeting our character in action. We are meeting their character doing what they do best. What is going to be their element in the story? Who are they for this story? We're going to see that in the first scene that we meet them. We're going to see that in a verb. We're going to see that in the action they are taking. So now I've shown you this for the protagonist, antagonist, and two supporting characters in Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. And with each character, they perform the character intro very well. But there's one character intro in this movie that isn't so great, and I want to touch on that one and give you an example of what it could have been, how it could have gone. And that is for the character Sallah. Now Sallah is a digger. He is one of the best diggers in Egypt who is being forced to work for the Nazis as they search for the Lost Ark. Now, how do we learn this information about Sallah? We are told by Indiana Jones.
I knew the Germans would hire you, Sallah. You're the best digger in Egypt.
So in this point, we are told this piece of exposition. We are not shown it. Indy says that Sallah is the best digger in Egypt. We don't see Sallah as the best digger in Egypt. Now, this doesn't destroy the film and it doesn't destroy the character of Sallah. However, it could have been done much more effectively. For example, we could have had a small sequence where Indiana Jones sends a messenger to Sallah as he is heading up the dig site for the Nazis. So we could see him at the dig site, leading the diggers, being forced to dig by the Nazis, but instead, all we get is this quick line from Indiana Jones telling us about this new character we have never met. And so now hopefully you can see that it would have worked much better had the audience been shown the character of Sallah, been shown him in action rather than the scene that we actually get, which is Sallah not in action, simply in a dialogue scene speaking to Indiana Jones. So that is the basic idea. Meet your character in action. Meet them doing something that will show us who they are and what their value will be for the story. Now, one final note that you can also take away from the character intros in this film is that we meet our characters at the point that it is necessary to meet them and not before, right? So a lot of times you can see films or even TV shows where people will be met, but we don't actually understand what their relationship is to the protagonist or to the story as a whole yet, right? And so then we end up with these characters that we don't understand why we're seeing them, and they could actually be introduced later on in the story when it was actually necessary for them to enter. So in Indiana Jones, we spend the first 10 minutes with just Indiana Jones, essentially. He goes through this entire initial sequence and we're really just meeting him. The other characters are side characters that we won't really see again until we meet Belloc, and that's our second major character, that's our main antagonist. And then we only meet Marion once Indiana Jones has decided to go on this quest to find the Lost Ark. And then after that, then we meet Sallah in Act 2. So you have to introduce your characters at the right time. Don't force your characters to be right at the beginning if it's not necessary for the story. Sometimes it may be, and sometimes you need to get a lot of characters in those first 10 pages, and that's totally fine. But what you should do is you should center the story around your protagonist. Ideally, we should meet them first, and then we meet the other characters as necessary as we go forward. That is the general rule that you should operate by. Meet the other characters when your protagonist needs them. Don't just cut to random characters or introduce random characters because you feel like we have to meet them immediately. That's not necessary. And then when you do this, when you meet those characters with your protagonist, a lot of the times the audience has a much better understanding of why this character is here, what their purpose is in regards to the goal of the story and the goal of the protagonist, and then it seamlessly works and you don't end up with a confusing first act. So I hope this has been helpful to you. And if you're interested in working with me one-on-one to find and fix every major problem in your feature-length screenplay, click the top link in the description below, and I will see you all in the next video. Thanks for watching.